Welcome to the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast, transforming the way people think and work so their organizations can thrive. Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to our podcast. I'm Ed Kless, and with me today is Katie Dooley. Katie is the founder of Paperline Creative, a branding and design agency in Edmonton, Alberta. Katie's passion and talent for design have made her the first choice of businesses looking to amplify their branding. Her love of design and art took shape at a young age. Since then, she's been soaking in much knowledge about art, business, and as design as she can. She takes the time to listen to people's unique stories and goals to deliver standout work. It's one of the many reasons why Paperline Creative is known as a collaborative design agency. Welcome to the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast, Katie Dooley.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, first off, Katie, why do you do what you do?
I got into branding and design first because I love it. But it's become so much more than that. I've learned that it's a problem. Design and branding are a problem that doesn't have a right answer, but there's always the best answer or a better answer. So it's this puzzle that I'm always trying to solve. I also think branding and design is one of the funnest parts of being a business owner. I think that it's probably, this is probably self-serving, but I think it's a treat for people to come to me and get to develop the visuals and the messaging of their brand, as opposed to going and getting their contracts written by a lawyer. A
little more fun.
I'm biased, Ed, but I think it's so much fun, and just having that as a business tool in your business tool belt is so important.
Expand on that. Tell me, how do you think branding is a business tool?
When branding is done properly, when you put your customer at the forefront, so the people you're trying to attract to purchase your product or service, having the right branding in place helps convert them more easily. It helps you make an emotional connection with them and creates, when you do it really well, that cult brand. So we see brands, Apple's always a great example of that cult brand where people feel like they're a part of something bigger. And in the same vein, when you hyper tailor your brand to those people that you want, you're actually going to detract people who aren't the right fit for you. So having good branding in place allows you to do better work for people that you genuinely enjoy, probably at a higher price, and you're not having to fight with people that aren't the right fit for you. And that there's, people in every industry, they'll find another fit, and you actually just get to enjoy your job every single day because you've tailored your visuals and messaging to a certain type of person that you want to work with.
Yeah, it's interesting because you mentioned Apple, and I know Steve Jobs is famous for one of the quotes he said, I'm most proud of what Apple hasn't done, meaning the stuff that he said no to and is not inside the brand.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and I was like this for a long time too. We get so worried about turning people away. But then, after enough experiences of either being nickeled a dime or ghosted by a client or just butting heads with those people, we realize it's not worth it. So to tailor whatever it is, your website, your social media, how you answer the phone, how you dress, how you speak to attract people that you like is super valuable.
Yeah, a friend of mine named Tim Williams, who's written a book on marketing and branding for professional firms, says, a brand can only stand for one thing. You can't be McDonald's and a high-end steak restaurant because you're going to get disappointed customers either way.
Yeah, absolutely. I forget who said it, but there was a designer who said, basically, you want people to either love it or hate it. And if they're neutral, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And that's exactly it, because the people who love Apple.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's people who can't stand Apple for whatever reason, price point, or the fact that their plugins aren't universal or what have you. And they'll find something else that they're happier with.
And the most important point you make is that an Apple doesn't go after them. Apple doesn't say,
Absolutely.
let's figure out a way to get those people. They don't want those people.
Yeah. And the success that they've had from focusing on, and Apple focuses on the lone wolf, the revolutionary, visionary person. Even if you're not, but you feel like you are or want to be that way, then Apple's super attractive to you.
Is one of the challenges that you face in talking with your customers the fact that many of them might come to you thinking that branding is putting a logo on, just as a logo? that's our brand. And when reality is it's also it's a big part of it is customer selection and saying no to people, correct? And how do they react to that when you tell them, all right, you're going to have to start saying no?
Yeah, it's I've learned to tell anecdotes and real life experiences of how tailoring to your right customer is actually beneficial. We like big generalizations. A hairdresser might say, I want to cut anyone's hair. And then maybe you put a screaming toddler in their chair and they don't actually enjoy that experience, for example. Or, I want to sell houses to anyone who wants a house. Well, maybe you don't want a young couple who has no budget because it's a lot of work because they have a lot of questions and no budget. Or maybe you don't want the super high-end houses because there's not a lot of people buying, right? It's a smaller market, both in inventory and in actual buyers. And so some of that just comes with experience in business, is knowing who you really enjoy working with, and giving some of those examples of, hey, remember that time you were yelled at as a server? If there were a way to not have them walk into the restaurant, would you like that? And when you can speak to real world experiences that they've had, whether that's in their current job or their high school job, it's a lot easier to sell them on it's okay to turn people away.
Sure. Well, Katie, we have an exit question that we ask all of our guests, and that is, who is a hero of yours and why are they a hero?
My design hero is Paula Scher from Pentagram in New York. She's probably most famous for the Boston More Than a Feeling album design, although she hates that she is famous for that. I love her because she came up in a time when there were not a lot of women in advertising. And honestly, at those high-level jobs, there still aren't a lot of women in advertising. So I just have always looked up to her as this powerhouse female designer who has done some very cool work. You have definitely seen a Paula Scher logo.
Well, the Citibank logo is one of them.
That's the big one, yeah.
And lastly, hey, Katie, how can somebody contact you?
You can find me at my website, paperlime.ca, or on Instagram or Facebook at Paperlime Creative.
All right. Katie Dooley, founder of Paperlime Creative. Thanks so much for being a guest on the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Review and subscribe by searching your podcast player of choice for Sage Thought Leadership Podcast.